This is the Talks Cheap podcast. It's October, and you know what that means. Playoff baseball is here.
Wait, whoa. You mean The Talk is Cheap podcast isn't just an NFL podcast?
No. We bring it all to you. It's October. The Indians are hot. The weather is cool, and our bats are warm. This is the second half of our doubleheader weekend. I'm your host, Justin Hayes, and with me is Skoiler Big Russia Krowitsky.
How are you doing, comrade?
I'm doing fine.
This reminds me of late June, you know, where it's cold out in my motherland, Russia.
Oh,
I couldn't do that serious.
All right, well, let's talk baseball.
In my motherland, ball bases you.
All right, so ball base. Cleveland goes up against Houston. The wild card's already decided. You got the Rockies in the AL, and then in the NL, and then in the AL, we've got the Yankees aboard again.
Boo.
Boo. All you got to say is boo. All right, so Cleveland going up against Houston. Fairly familiar sight here.
Yeah, you know, I don't really like Houston, but for this podcast, I'll do it with Houston, all right? Just so you know, don't like Houston. However, Jose Altuve, real deal, man. I think he's having a little off year this year, but he's batting .316. So I guess if an off year is .316, that's good.
How many stolen bases has he got this year? Oh, he's only rocking 17 this year?
Yeah, only 17. I think that's the highest on their team, though.
Yeah. Usually I think he's stepping more into that superstar role where he's not.
I ain't getting dirty. I ain't getting his jersey dirty.
They get injured a lot when they start doing that. Whereas the Indians, they just frankly don't care. Jose has 34 stolen bases.
Our infielder / shortstop is already better than Jose Altuve. I don't care what anyone says.
Frankie,
he's only batting .277, but he has 25 stolen bases. And he has 38 home runs compared to 13 for Jose Altuve.
Yeah, I'd say that this year we've got one of our most stacked rosters in a long time. We're looking down the batting order, and these guys can hit.
Every single player on this team can hit. I mean, I wasn't so high on Yonder Alonso at the beginning of the year, but, I mean, he's showing he's worth his money.
Well, and it took a little bit of time and a few acquisitions to get us that far. I mean, Kipnis was our second baseman. Now he's our center fielder. And we acquired Josh Donaldson, which is a huge help.
Love that addition. I mean, it made all the Yankees fans mad. It made Boston and Houston and New York, they're all mad, even though they do the same stuff. It's just because, you know, small market teams getting players that they want.
Yep, you can't see Cleveland win, in a professional sport.
That's the problem is, you know, no salary cap in baseball really hurts the roster, but it looks like we got an ownership willing to spend some money.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, we got some youth on this team. I was against Greg Allen. Is that his name? Greg Allen?
Yeah.
And he's showing that he's pretty good, man, especially if he's in a backup role or something like that, you know, coming off when people are tired.
Yeah, him and it looks like him and Kipnis are going to share that role, so that's really your weakest part on the lineup.
And you're putting a vet back there. I mean, Kipnis doesn't really play center field that often.
And you got the milkman, Melky Cabrera. He's stepping up big.
I love Melky Cabrera.
I
loved
tell
him
you
when he
what,
played for Chicago.
We sure knew what we were getting when we went up for him. Free agent signing, and whether he's playing right field
or center field or left field,
or he's just pinch hitting, he's an excellent acquisition.
I'm proud with him. Back over to our pitching though. I think Corey Kluber and Trevor Bauer are going to be the keys to the series if Trevor Bauer's healthy.
Yeah, that's gonna hinge on him a lot. He was pitching his first game back from the injury. He was pitching like 1 or 2 innings. He struggled a little bit, but then I think his last game he pitched about 5 innings against Boston,
which is good. But I didn't like them to see what we were going to throw at him. The least amount of times Boston can see your pitching.
Yeah, and that was our last series, I think, of our season.
I know we're looking a little ahead, but I do think that the Windians can beat Houston. I mean, they did take us out, but I think, they took us out a couple of years ago, or last year, was it?
It was last year.
Last year they took us out, but I think we can hold our own against them this year, and I think that our batting order is really good. And if Bauer's healthy, I think we can outpitch them too. I mean, pitching, they got a good squad. I mean, Justin Verlander must have found the fountain of youth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they got Dallas Keuchel or whatever, and then McCullers. He's a nice pitcher.
And he's only 24 years old. I think he turned 25 soon. But
they've got a solid lineup of startings. Nobody's eager to go up to bat.
How's Andrew Miller?
Andrew Miller, he is playing. So he's been pretty solid coming back from his injury, but he's only seen short use since.
You know, a pitcher that's only seen short use, but I'm really high on, Oliver Perez.
Mm-hmm.
I love that lefty. I love his sidearm style.
Well, you know, we find ways to use those bullpen pitchers really well because you've also got Kimber, I'm pretty sure, is
Adam Kimber that we got in the Padres deal with Brad Hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was a great deal.
On paper, again, I just want to state, on paper, this team is stacked. Like, I haven't even realized, you know, as an Indians fan, I haven't even realized. You take for granted this bullpen. It just hasn't been healthy. It hasn't been put together.
And in the early stages of this year, just like our batting order, everything used to be heavy up top, where we had great starters, had terrible bullpen, had great first 4 or 5 hitters, terrible down the rest of the lineup. Now everything's really, really balanced.
I think that's Terry Francona's like strong card is he knows how to make a batting order for the playoffs, and he knows how to use his bullpen.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is Terry Francona. That's when he brings in Kimber and Perez all the time, and just to get 1 or 2 outs.
That's what I like.
That's genius.
Yeah, he'll bring in a pitcher, use him up just for an inning or two, just to get us through the inning, and then throw out your star or throw your star in for an inning or two.
Yeah,
he just wants to confuse the batters, and I like that.
You got to take advantage of those matchups, and he does a great job. And then you know what else is nice about that? You can turn around and use Oliver Perez next game, you know, the next day, because he only threw, you know, 7 pitches.
Yeah, it keeps your bullpen, you know, fresh. They have fresh arms and ready to throw.
And it keeps the batting lineup never knowing who's going to be out on the mound against them.
Yeah, true. And, you know, speaking about Terry Francona, let's go to his old team, Boston. You know, they're playing that terrible city, New York.
Oh, yeah. With the Wiffle Ball Stadium.
Yeah, with the Wiffle Ball Stadium. What was that fun fact you were telling me about?
Oh, it's the easiest park in the league to hit home runs. And you see it with their lineup, just how many home runs. They broke the record this year, I believe, for most home runs in one season.
I know they did that, but you got to remember, Giancarlo Stanton is a beast, and I love Aaron Judge.
Their lineup is full of big hitters, but I tell you, it doesn't take much to hit deep. And Judge strikes out a lot. Those guys, I think they just come up up to bat just to swing for the fences all day long, and that's why their batting average isn't amazing, but they're all pretty all right, and they hit a lot of home runs.
They only have 2 batters over 300.
Right, and the Indians, on the other side of that, they've got a few guys, but they're all high 200s, and you've got Jose hitting 39 home runs in a real stadium.
Yeah,
you know what
we
I mean?
have 2 MVP candidates. So.
Yeah, and also we would have had 2 Cy Young candidates if Trevor Bauer was breaking his leg. That was key in his running for that.
I wish we could lock him up, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah.
Contractually.
And Corey Kluber got his 20th win. He's never done that before, and he's won 2 Cy Youngs. So.
Yeah, he's won 2 Cy Youngs, got his 20th win, and he's 31 years old, so it doesn't look like he's slowing down.
His ERA isn't as good as it has been before, but he's more of a he controls the situation. He's able to go down deep into games. He had a few bad games in the middle there after I believe he had some sort of injury or something that was holding back. Yeah, his elbow or something. Couldn't quite find...
I'm glad he's all right, though.
Yeah, he couldn't quite find his placement all right, but they've come back from that.
Yeah, well, let's switch it over to Boston and the Yankees for a minute. I mean, I know we don't really want to talk about, our potential
either
opponents.
Either of those 2 teams.
But I want to talk about this batting order for Boston. I mean, it looks menacing, and it kind of scares me because I'm looking right past the Yankees. I'm assuming the only chance they have is Luis Severino throws like a perfect game.
Yeah. And,
they got a couple relievers, that are good. I do love Aurelius Chapman, and they got one other guy. I can't think of his name.
It's another Bellatel. I can't even pronounce the name. Dylan Betilensis or something like that, but another one of those guys who throws 100 miles per hour.
Yeah,
they've got big hitters and big arms.
Yeah, basically they're just powerful.
It's like that team that you'd build on a video game just to have some fun.
I mean, and that's what New York Yankees fans want. Sorry, exactly. You guys have one of the largest fan bases in the world. I'm not hating on the Yankees, but you guys are kind of fair weather. I'm just going to say that. And you guys want to see home runs and you guys want to see strikeouts.
Entertainment.
And that's what makes baseball fun. But it also is what loses you games, and that's why you guys really haven't done much in the last 4 years. When your team was well put together with Jeter and A-Rod, I mean, I'd hate playing you guys. You guys were really the best team in baseball. But I think the best team in baseball, I don't really like the Dodgers that much. I think they're beatable. I think Boston might be unbeatable.
Yeah, plus 100 wins this season. J.D. Martinez is having a crazy
I never would have guessed that, by the way.
Oh, man. He's another candidate for MVP this year, and Mookie Betts having another solid year.
He's
Xander
batting
Bogaerts.
346, man.
Oh, yeah. He gets on base, man. That's all it takes. Jackie Bradley Jr. having a pretty
I
quiet
think he's an
year.
underrated center fielder in this league.
And he's clutch. He comes in big moments.
Great glove.
Oh yeah.
Onto their pitching though. They got a couple pitchers, man, that are worth a dang.
Boston?
Yeah, they got a couple.
Oh yeah, they've got Chris Sale. He's another guy kind of in discussion for Cy Young, but he's only got 12 wins, but his ERA is
they got a couple star lefties
2.11
with David Price and Chris Sale, and I think that's the Indians' problem is when we face left-handed pitchers.
Well, I've actually done a little bit of research. They're not as bad compared to some other teams, but Indians' problem is we don't have enough left-handers.
Yeah, I forgot. We do have a lot of switch.
We've got a lot of switch
that
hitters.
Helps. But our pitching, we don't have any lefties.
Yeah,
we have Brad Hand and Andrew Miller.
Yep. And Simber throws that mean sidearm. So you got a little bit of difference.
But with Boston, I mean, they got Craig Kimbrell, which they got from the Braves. I think it was in free agency or a trade.
Yeah, and he's their closer.
Yeah, he's their closer. And then I love Drew Pomerantz. He's pretty good. I think he's a little underrated as well. I think that
you've got Boston pitching. It's not as talented as Cleveland's. I mean, minus a few guys, it's not as deep. What I'm saying, but they hold pretty well in ERA. They don't have any guys that go out there and you're just like, oh my god. As a fan of Boston, you're just like rolling your eyes like Indians when they throw Josh Tomlin out there.
And I don't know what happened to him, man.
Man, when you're all control and no velocity, you're really going to have problems striking people out when you're not on your A game.
Because when you get tired, you're going to lose your control.
Exactly, and you're gonna start throwing those lobs over the plate. He's got a 6.14 ERA. That means he's allowing tons of hits.
You think Terry Francona uses him for that, let's throw him in there for 2 innings or an inning and eats up some innings?
Yeah, he's got stamina. He's been a starting pitcher his whole career up until, I think, this year. He's just not what he's been in the past, but to look for maybe some optimism, he after going down to AAA, I believe, he came back, and against that Boston series towards the end of the season, he pitched well. He started a game, so there's a little bit to be hopeful for Josh Tomlin, but it's really a scary sight when they put him out there. And then Allen's had his rough patch. And then he's very hot and cold, man. Cody Allen, he's got a 4.24 this year, but I've seen him close out some clutch games.
Yeah, I think Cody Allen's got,
for a while he stepped up for Andrew Miller, but
nobody's Andrew Miller, man. I mean, I'm glad we stole him from the Yankees. That's awesome. The fact that we stole him from the Yankees, what was that, 2 years ago, because they didn't think they'd be relevant, and now they're actually a good baseball team. I mean, they can hit home runs, and that's how you win games. But imagine if they had Andrew Miller, too. With Aroldis Chapman, I would actually be scared of that bullpen.
And
strike fear.
But we've got something similar. We're pulling three guys who've closed for us this year. You're talking Andrew Miller, who's closed, but then Cody Allen, who stepped in his place, and now we got Brad Hand. Talk about that setup that you could have in a dire moment where you need somebody to close out a Game 5 or a Game 7. You're going to be able to set them up. You're going to be able to set up Andrew Miller for an easy 9th inning. And maybe they go deeper. I see.
What makes me happy is you can go with either of them. I'd be happy if I'm like, all right, we got 0 outs, 2 people on base. I need Brad Hand to close out this 9th inning. Yeah, I'd be happy. You said the same thing with Andrew Miller. Well, I'd be happy.
And then the other benefit is that Hand's that lefty, so you kind of have that option on what you're about to face.
Yeah, you know who you're going to face. Obviously you've done the study and you know if they're good against. Plus, Brad Hand being from the West, I think, is going to help us if we do make the World Series.
Okay. That's some optimistic thinking.
Because he's going to see them, more often.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't make the World Series, let's just say the Indians don't make the World Series, we got a couple prospects to look forward to, man.
What are you talking?
Tristan McKenzie for the Rubber Ducks.
He's really stepped up. He was that lanky guy.
I think he's like 6'5", 6'4".
Yeah, he started throwing. It wasn't very fast, but now they're saying he could pitch up into the hundreds.
And he's got the stamina to go, and he can put weight on. So I'm happy with that. I do like Nolan Jones as well. It's sad to see Mejia.
Yeah, Mejia leave.
Go,
but he's had a solid year. With who'd he go to?
The Padres.
That's
when
right.
We got Brad Hand.
Yeah, but overall he wasn't showing much progression in the minors. So.
And we have two catchers that are 30 years old, and in baseball, your catcher's about 33, 34.
Yeah,
he wouldn't even see the field for a couple years.
So and Jan Gomes, he made the All-Star the All-Star game this year. So you really don't have a need for anything as long as you can lock him up for a while, and which I think they'll be able to do.
I do miss Martin, though. I think if we had Martin in the center field, Leonis, I hope he's doing all right and everything like that.
That was a big scare. He come down with that serious illness.
It was like a staph infection or something like that.
It's one of those really bad infections that can be dire, and thank God for the prayers
he's got help,
and everything.
At the Cleveland Clinic. So one of the best hospitals.
Right. That's one of those things that you don't put into account when you're measuring, the value of a city. But true. So we're talking Houston and Cleveland, and we've gone, toe to toe with them before, not just in the playoffs, but this season. Me
and you saw. Games. I went to 3 out of that 4-game series.
I went to 2.
So
yeah, we caught it all. They didn't do too bad against a team, and at that time Houston had the better lineup by far.
This team was not ready.
Yeah, the Cleveland Indians, they were top heavy in the batting order, and everything else just was terrible, and we couldn't get batters on.
We relied on Kluber and Lindor. If Lindor had a bad game, we were done, and if Kluber had a bad game, we were done. We were trying to squeak a couple wins out,
and it was before Trevor Bauer was lighting everything up. All right, so let's say we're able to handle Houston this week. We've got first game tonight, which tonight's Friday.
Yeah, 2:00, right?
And it's a 5-game series. So I think if they can get one win out of these first 2 in Houston and come back to Cleveland with maybe 1-1, I think they've got a shot. I think they've got a big shot. Because we mentioned I like the lineups. I like the starting pitchers.
Well, I think the weather's supposed to warm up, too. And I do want to mention that the Indians aren't a very good cold weather team. So I think starting in Houston is more of a benefit to Cleveland than it is Houston.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. I like that.
I get, you have a home field advantage and all that, but I don't think in baseball it's that big of a deal.
Well, and you pick your time. So, you pick your time. You get a cold weather day in Cleveland, but you're not playing in Cleveland. You're playing in Houston, and then you come back.
And maybe it's supposed to warm up. I think it's like 10 to 15 degrees warmer when they come back. So.
That'd be a nice little lucky break they catch there. All right, so they handled the Houston. Let's say they handled them. And we believe Yankees are going to lose to Boston. Yankees came through wild card. Boston plus 100 wins this year, and they've got a stellar lineup. So Boston wins, and it's Cleveland versus Boston. And you're stacking them up, and the lineup, when you're comparing the batting orders, they're similar. Lindor, Mookie Betts, J.D. Martinez, and you're comparing them to maybe Jose.
Yeah, that's the only one you can compare it to.
And I really think it's going to matter. And we both know that Indians' starting lineup for pitching and their bullpen now is solid. I think if Cleveland's bats are hot, they take this home.
Yeah, I think over the course of the season, you see the talent on Boston spread out. You know what I mean? Like, you have 162 games to see the talent that they have. But we're just talking, 5 or 7 games?
It's going to be
next series.
Oh, it's going to be 7.
It's going to be 7. I think over a 7-game series, I think Cleveland's roster can hold its own. And, we're playoff tested. A lot of these players are not playoff tested for Boston.
Yeah. And what's helpful for us going 7 games against Boston, and maybe some extra innings too, because if you watch the last series we had against them right before the playoffs, a lot of those games, I think, if not all of them, went into extra innings. Having that deep bullpen is going to help, because if you look through our starting pitchers. You've got Kluber, excellent. Carrasco, great. Clevenger can have a chance to have a bad game, but a solid pitcher, especially when some of these guys, their third or fourth pitcher in their rotation is just complete garbage.
When your worst pitcher's ERA is 4.5, and he's a rookie.
Yeah, but he's a bat to contact type of guy. If you look at like the runs that he allows, he actually does a pretty good job at maintaining the games. His win-loss is 11-5. That's solid.
Yeah, that's solid, especially for a rookie. I like our starting lineup. And
then you have that option with Adam Plutko, who's had a very up and down season. He's had good games. He's won games as a starter. He's won games as a bullpen guy. But I just think that we've got the depth to go long games and all 7 games.
Yeah, we have the arms for it. Bauer can go long. Kluber's about a 7-inning guy.
Mm-hmm.
Clev's about a 5, but Carrasco can go 7 to 8. Bauer can go all 9 if we needed to.
Yeah,
and we got
he's
Bieber,
healthy.
Yeah, and we got Bieber and Plutko. Plutko can move to the bullpen and eat up 3 or 4 innings. And like you said about Josh Tomlin, starting pitcher, moved to the back. He's got the stamina.
Yeah.
He's got the stamina. So, I'm not too scared about Boston, as I mean, their roster is good, and I think they will go to the World Series. But it's not crazy out of the realm to see Cleveland take down the mighty Giants. I've seen David versus Goliath before.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of chances for that.
So let's say the Windians go on to the World Series, right?
Okay.
Who are they playing?
Man, I look at, we were discussing how the Indians started off with a rough roster at the beginning of the season, and then they make accusations to get people, or they acquire people, and then you look over into the National League and you see somebody who does something very similar. The LA Dodgers, they pick up Manny Machado. Who else? They've signed a few guys.
I mean, I can't tell you all their signings. They signed a lot, but I mean, Manny Machado, Chris Taylor, and Cody Bellinger. Right there are your young core, and they're solid. Solid ace. They're pitchers. They got the best pitcher in baseball, Clayton Kershaw. I mean, we're not going to break down the roster here, but they are. I think they are the. I think Boston's probably got a better roster, but I think for like long term, I think the Dodgers do have the better roster.
Yeah. Any other teams out of the National League you could see?
Rockies got a lot of heart, man.
Rockies play tough.
They did lose to the Dodgers.
I've seen Rocky. I've seen the movies, and he, hey, maybe they got the stuff.
Yeah, maybe they got the stuff.
Well, so we sum it up. Cleveland versus Houston, 5-game series.
I think Cleveland wins that.
Yep.
I would if I had to bet. I'd put
Boston versus Yankees, 5-game series.
Boston's gonna win.
Yankees
I think Boston
just came off of 1 game.
Boston wins in 3 games.
Yeah. And they might not. Yeah, they might not win the New York games, but they got more games in Boston.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I said they'll win in 3 games. I forgot that this is the rivalry. It's probably the biggest rivalry in baseball, and I just had a brain fart. I think if Boston played the A's, which I think the A's are a better team than the Yankees, but I think because it's a rivalry and because it's the history, the Yankees are going to give Boston
a little bit of fight. They're gonna hit, and if they're
going to come out swinging for sure.
If they're playing in that stadium in New York, they're gonna pull maybe 1 or 2 wins. It depends on where they stack their pitchers.
Boston can't bite into the hype. Just because the Yankees are swinging for the fences, Boston can't swing for the fences. They got to play their game. I mean, JD Martinez will do his thing, but you got to play your game, man. You got to get people on base, strike people out.
Oh yeah, I think if they just play this, safe and keep doing them, they won 100 games this year. They're gonna be able to handle. They've handled them all season in their division, so it should be pretty easy to keep them at bay. So Boston moves on, meets Cleveland, and that's the finals there.
I think Boston would beat Cleveland, but I couldn't see Cleveland getting smashed out of this. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I think Boston does have kind of the better situation on paper. Cleveland gets streaky at times, and that's what scares me. But I don't think it's out of the realm to say Cleveland could pull it off. They've got the most talented roster they've probably ever had. I mean, and it's been 60 years now.
Yeah, it was like, what, 1948?
Oh, yeah, so 70 years. 70 years.
70 years. I mean, history's really on their side. I mean, they're due to break it.
It's been a while. It was a while for the Cubs, right? So, hey.
Let's just talk about that 2 years ago. I mean, man, who could have beat the Indians? You know,
Yeah,
only the Cubs. Like, you know, it was like 100 years since they won it last. Of course the Indians had to face it. That was just some Cleveland luck right there.
Right. And that was the same year they went on the – no, that was last year. They went on the roll. So, yeah, they
used up their bats last year. But the year prior, like I was telling you, it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once the bats get cold for the
True.
Indians.
And they had the – in the past 2 years, they've given up that 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
Or the 3-win lead.
Yeah, the 3-win lead. So – I don't see it's out of the realm of possibility for them to beat Boston. I don't know much after that, though. I can't trust this team. The manager's win-proven, but I can't trust this team just yet. So we'll see how this rolls tonight.
You know what's wild is that the one thing that stands out to me is we just said and we just admitted that this may be the best Cleveland roster ever. And they came one game shy 3 times or however many times against the Cubs. They're one game away. But this roster is better. But we still are hesitant to say that they could go all the way because this league, you know, the National League and the American League are so top-heavy that all you've got are 4 teams full of players on each side. And it's crazy to think that with as talented as this roster is and as talented as we've seen it this year, they still don't have the odds to beat Boston. That means there's still better teams out there. That's something to marvel at a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like the NBA, but that's for another
right?
day.
Oh yeah, that's coming around the corner. Maybe next week or maybe a couple weeks later, we'll cover the NBA as well, and we're going to keep a close eye on the playoffs for baseball here.
Oh, Roll Tribe, remember that Windians,
right?
So let's try to beat Houston and let's move on to the next.
Do it for the Chief.
Yeah, do it. Save the Chief.
Right, save the Chief. All right, this has been all. Thank you for tuning in. This has been The Talk is Cheap. I am your host, Justin Hayes, and with me was Skylar Big Russia Krowetsky. Skylar, why don't you tell them where they can check us out in the future?
You can check us out in Mother Russia or the United States of America on Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play.
Thank you. That is all.